This podcast is part of the No Phony Podcast Network, the home of independent awesomeness.
Guys, welcome to today's episode of On the Road with Jim and Casey. As usual, there he is, the bigger man, as we all know, that could bench more than me when he was 15 and I was whatever I am right now. Casey Shearer.
That's right.
All right. So, guys, today we got 3 people, possibly 4 is coming, I think. There's going to be the 4th guy's coming. We got Neal David Sutz. He's got a pretty amazing story that you people probably never heard of. Well, probably our listeners did because, you know, they're a bunch of, just people that aren't brainwashed by the median of the illusion. And we also got here Steve Robinson and Shelby Busch. Guys, now I know a little, I've just, talking to you for a little bit. I kind of see what's happening. You guys are going to talk about how the Child Protective Services, CPS, I'm not saying that all the people that work there are bad. However, the majority of them hate men, and all they want to do is not what they're paid to do, but, there's a pretty big statistic that they just want to grab your children and basically sell them off slave blocks and, just continue the fallen satanic Luciferian Illuminati Bilderberg group agenda. You guys probably know better than I do, though. So, Neal, why don't you start us off?
Well, it's a long story. It's a complex story. Most people that are familiar with it know kind of the basics. I'll run over the basics on this right now. February 20, 2017, myself, my ex-wife, and our 2 sons, who were then 3 and 6, or 3 and 7, were living in Arizona. My ex-wife had been subject of horrific ritualistic abuse in her family for decades, but had achieved a sense of stability in our little family of 4. Came home one night, dropped to the floor, handed me her cell phone, where she had just gotten a copy of a child porn video of her stepfather, Robert Grant Bradford, one of the leaders of the Mormon Church, molesting our nephew Austin in the bathtub while her mother shot the child porn video. So she cracked. She was already a very fragile person. She cracked, and we ended up coming to Switzerland because I was born in New York in 70, but I'm a half Swiss. So we thought we'd come here, make sure our sons were never subject to that kind of horrific, sick, crazy that she was, her nephew was, etc. We came here. She was very disassociated. The idea was to get her trauma therapy here, and she had attempted a double suicide with our son Skylar, who was 3 at the time. She was obviously taken to a psych hospital. She was institutionalized for 60 days at first. And then after 9 days, the Swiss CPS came and grabbed my kids, ripped my kids out of my arms. And it's been 3 years and 19 days now.
Okay.
That's the overall summary.
Wow. All right. So now in the Mormon Church, what does this happen a lot? Every Mormon I know, all they're into is swinging, trying to bang your girl, like they're just all, they just want pounds of women around them. So is that like normal in not normal, but is there like?
All right, well, let me put it this way. I couldn't, I grew up in Scottsdale, Arizona, 70s and 80s. Mormon people, I have said this from the beginning of this whole thing, this thing happening here. I met a lot of really nice Mormon people growing up. I met a lot of really nice Mormon people, men, women, children in the church after I met my ex-wife in 2010. I think in any religion, there are good people and bad people.
Exactly.
Do the Mormons, a large part of them still believe in the concept of polygamy? Absolutely. The Bradford family, great-grandfather was Heber J. Grant the prophet. He was supposed to be the last polygamist in the church. Not really the case. Do they believe that when they pass away, if they do certain tasks here on earth, do the men believe they can have 1 million spiritual wives and 1 million spiritual babies on their own planet? Yeah, it's in the Book of Mormon. It's one of their beliefs. But I don't think the people themselves are inherently bad. I think politically speaking, corporation, if you want to talk in terms of money and corporations, it's more of a business. I mean, it's the corporation for the president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. When you break it down, it's a corporation. In resume, I don't think the people are inherently bad. I think the leadership is highly corrupt. I think the people, a lot of the people in the church, whether they're generational Mormons or converts, are highly manipulated through rote doctrine, repeating the same kinds of phrases over and over and over. And if one looks at Christianity, I mean, okay, I grew up half Jewish, half Catholic. I was confused as a kid, but I'm very well aware as a Christian now. The basic premise of Christianity is that Christ died on the cross to spare us as sinners so we can then have eternal life. We don't get to say one's a Christian, whatever denomination. We don't achieve forgiveness or eternal life because of the tasks that we do on earth. We achieve it through the grace of God. And that, I'm sorry, but the Mormon context of we have to do this, we have to do that, we have to do this, and then if you do that, then you can get in really good with Jesus Christ. But before you go to Jesus Christ, you got to talk to Joseph Smith. And that's actually what they believe. And I'm sorry, I disagree completely. It goes against the context of Christianity, period.
Yeah, and I mean, it's definitely, I mean, hey, this is America. You know, you can, if you want to, I know, 5 or 6 Mormon dudes, and they're cool. I mean, yeah, it's swingers. They have hot chicks. They're just always, moving around. They're nice people, but yeah, I mean, you can believe what you want, but it's always about the faith. Jesus paid the price that we're saved because we're sinners. So Steve and Shelby, so why did you guys get involved in this? And what's your path in all of this?
So we have a mutual friend that had been working with Neal. And what Steve and I do primarily, right now we're running a congressional campaign, but what we do primarily is a lot of investigative research. So we do a lot of dark digging on corruption, and we send it to investigative journalists, and the investigative journalists report on it. Well, one of those investigative journalists got a hold of us and said, hey, there's something going on in Arizona, and we need you to get a hold of this gentleman and talk to him, meaning Neal. And at the time, there was some concerns about the location and well-being of Neal's ex-wife. And so that's where we came in to kind of do what we do out here. Anyways, long story short, we were brought in because we have been fighting the DCS corruption. Here in Arizona, they changed it to Department of Child Safety, DCS, instead of CPS. But in the state of Arizona, they removed juries from the courtroom back in 2004. So now you can have your parental rights severed at the discretion of one judge and one DCS worker. Since that has occurred, children are removed from the home in the state of Arizona at 2.5 times the rate of any other state in the nation.
So let's put it into context. Before they removed juries from DCS courtrooms, children were removed at what was the percentage?
About 13%.
About 13% of children were actually removed from households. Since they've removed the juries of our peers from the DCS courtrooms, now they remove at upwards of 98% of the time.
How many, do you know the percentage of how many kids go missing out of the DPS or CP or the CPS or whatever it's called in Arizona? Do they know how many kids out of the 13% that are taken from their families are just missing then, gone?
So that's the interesting thing. They don't really keep statistics. Right now, we know this year, over 268 kids in social services has turned up missing in the state of Arizona. The unfortunate thing is, and this is pretty much nationally, after a child is taken into social services and they disappear, for whatever reason they disappear, they do not issue Amber Alerts in the state of California for these kids. And after 6 months of missing, they are completely dropped off the rolls. So these kids no longer exist. There was a case where we met a mother, her children were taken from her, and this was just what, 2-3 months ago, approximately. Her kids were taken from her. Parental rights were severed. Uncle was caring for the kids. DCS came in and said, the kids are eligible for adoption now. We found an adoptive family. They take the kids from the uncle, give them to this adoptive family. Fast forward 2.5 years, they had been given a third child that was severed, their rights were severed. So now they've adopted 3 children. So we're gonna fast forward 2.5 years. There was a call by one of the children in the home for assistance. They had been left alone for 3 days with no food, no water. So the little girl got desperate. The family found out because DCS came into the house and removed the other 2 children that were there by themselves. They tried to burn the house down. When the fire department responded, come to find out, Priscilla Marquez, her little girl, had been dead in the attic of this house for over 2 years and nobody was looking for her. And this is in our neighborhood. This is 5 miles from us.
And you said how many kids go missing per year? It just cut out for a second. It was 200 what?
Right now, what they're admitting to this year is they have 268 kids missing this year. That's what they're admitting to. The problem is there's so much financial incentive, right? And where there's money, there's corruption. The problem is oftentimes these kids go missing and they're not reported. And if they're not checked on and they're not tracked like they should be, which oftentimes they're not, we don't know how many kids are still missing. 268 that we know of. But again, foster parent takes in a child, traffics this child out. They're not going to report it. They're still getting a monthly check.
So just to reiterate here, the local case that she was talking to you about where the child was dead in the attic, that child was dead in the attic. And that family was given another child. No one ever went in to do a welfare check of their situation before giving them another kid. It's insane. Their standards for blood relatives are so much higher than their standards for the people they're giving children to and trusting to care for these children.
Right. So they might disagree with, are you teaching your children about creation and that evolution isn't real? Or, you know what I mean? Like, they'll have something crazy that they cook up, but like, because you're like, well, I believe in Jesus Christ because loving everyone, get him. You know what I mean? Like it could be even like some sort of like.
That's a hardcore reality.
Yeah.
That's a hardcore reality. I mean, that's here in Switzerland. I mean, here I'm not even allowed to pray with my kid. I gave my kids crosses for Christmas. They were cut off, them and thrown in the garbage the second that I walked out, because you can't, if you're Judeo-Christian, you're not allowed to practice your faith here. And that happens in America as well. And you look at a place like Arizona, I mean, facts being what they are, it's not just that Utah is the capital of the Mormon Church. I mean, Arizona has a massive political, social, financial, religious influence from the Mormons. And it goes from the church all the way down. And to take away the right, yeah, I've had parents, I mean, it happened to me, told me, they say you cannot pray with your kids. And if your kids want to pray, they have to do it in their room with the door closed.
Case, we're going to bring in Josh Barnett. He's here. Not to get off topic here, but we got Josh Barnett coming in right now. I'm just going to slide this over. Have everybody. Oh, there he is. Okay.
Hi there.
Josh, what's up, man? Okay. But yeah, just to go back on what you were saying, that Jesus said in John 7:13, when he's like, hey, the world's going to hate you because the world hates Jesus because he's not of the world.
Mm-hmm.
That's henceforth we believe in him. And he said, the world will hate you when you live like me and you live through me. And that's why we're like, oh, I believe in love. I don't want to eat and rape and torture and drink baby blood. I don't want to break their necks and spinal fluid,
and Matthew 18:6.
And they're like, kill him. Like they
right.
say.
And Matthew 18:6, better to hang a millstone from your neck that ever cause harm to a child. This is what all these people are doing, and they're doing it of their own volition. They're doing it for their own better purposes. That's why I was so blessed after we were nearing the 3-year point when by the grace of God, I was introduced to the three of them, to Shelby, to Steve, to Josh, and they were the first people ever, political candidates. Josh Barnett just won the primary for District 7 in Phoenix. He's this close to getting into Congress, except he's going up against an incumbent that is funded by the dirty people, and he's the one that needs the support. Shelby and Steve and what they're running for in their positions. These are the most, and I'm not just saying it because they spoke out and demanded the immediate unconditional return of my sons because of this corrupt case, but they speak out for all the parents that are screwed over and all the kids that are disappearing, getting abused, being kidnapped from their families. And that's why it's a blessing. These are some courageous people, because they're in the belly of the beast there.
I mean, I don't know if Josh, if you know more people than us, but like, or any of these people, but do you know people still support NAMBLA? Like, NAMBLA. That's there's actually like, oh, but the NAMBLA, like, are we kidding? Like, oh, it's, it's just, he loves just he just wants to come to your door, knock on the door, take your children. Like, people actually support. I mean, I don't know, Josh, can I ask you, is there people that you're running against that are like, yeah, my bro's in NAMBLA, he's so cool, he loves 4-year-old, boys? Is Josh still here?
I know he was on his cell phone, so he might have dropped out on accident.
Okay. Well, anyway, yeah, I mean, it's wild to think that, but it's a reality.
Well, it is a reality. And right now we're facing some of the toughest corruption in the nation here in Arizona. Multiple churches that use the church as a cover. You've got, it's not even about the faith or the people, right? There's leadership. So the Lutherans have been implicated in the child trafficking, the Mormons, the Catholics. So it's not even just the church, but it's the power that comes from their positions of authority. And like Neal was saying, it's the money. It always comes back to the money. There's such huge financial incentives in moving these kids and trafficking these kids. I believe it's something like $8,000 for every child taken, and that's just the bonus, right?
This is on the DCS side. So this is the legal taking of children, not illegal that we're talking about here. But there's financial incentive for each individual DPS worker, and who is officially has been made an actual agent now. They're not just a social worker anymore. Everyone makes money when they take a child.
There are doctors that specialize in this, psychologists, child psychologists that specialize in this. They will do independent evaluations of these families, of the parents and the children, without ever even meeting them. Everything is just records provided by CPS, DCS. They are making millions of dollars. There is a doctor out of Denver, Colorado, who operates in 7 states. He's not even medically licensed. One county in Colorado has already paid him almost $500,000 this year for incentivizing him to write reports stating that the parents are unfit. And we have some legislation that a friend of ours helped us put together that we took to the legislative branches. It was sponsored by a legislator here locally to try and restore due process back into the courts for these parents like Neal and all these other parents who their kids are just taken. And that's to me the thing that's the most appalling about Neal's case. I mean, you could take the money behind it, the corruption behind it, all. I mean, that in itself is bad enough. But we're talking about an American father with 2 American children who are living in a foreign country, and our embassy will not step in and ensure that he has due process as an American citizen. It's a stark reality that our government does not have our back. So, we think that if we travel abroad, that somehow having the American consulates there, somebody's going to do something, right? Certainly someone's going to do something. Neal has letters from Phoenix Children's Hospital where his kids were monitored on a consistent and regular basis that were submitted to the courts there in Switzerland, stating that he was an upstanding father There was never any red flags, never any concerns. The kids were healthy. They were happy. This is not a DCS case. This is a case of somebody making the right phone call, and Neal's kids are stripped away from him. And nobody in either government is doing anything to bring justice for this man. And he's one of so many parents. We interact on a consistent basis with parents who there is no crime. I mean, think about this. When you bank, you get a jury, you get due process, right? You've robbed a bank. These parents, they're not charged with a crime ever. I mean, rarely are they. We have one mother that
Well, it's because they work for the government, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you're good. You're good. You can. Oh, you like to sell children." And I'm not saying that all government's evil and everything, but I mean, you know, it's they're all under the system of the powers in high places. And I'm not trying to cut you off, but we got Josh. Josh, you there? I can see you. It's not moving. Looks like he's not. Okay, he's not there, I don't think, right now.
Okay.
But so can you go into these churches? Oh, there we go. Okay, can you go into these churches about how they're moving these kids? Because I was just having a conversation today. I was over out at a spa, you know, selling some product. And I was talking, and they were talking about how their son, he wants to be a street preacher. And he doesn't want to become, you know, go to the schooling and do all this. And I was like, that's great. That's what Jesus was. That's what you want to, like, that's where you're not destroyed by all these people. This is how you teach the Bible. And they're like, you know, like meeting in secret and raping, torturing children all over the place. That you want to be, because like, but there's just no money in it. And I'm like, yeah, because money's fake and money is the blood of children. And have you guys heard, or is it big in Arizona about the whole adrenochrome? And I mean, now it's proven. Everyone knows it. If you don't know that it's real, you're lying to yourself, and you don't even know who you are. I'm not saying you're stupid. You know, in Satanism, the hatred of stupid people is their number one. Like, they just love hating. I love stupid chicks. I love smart chicks. I love you know, dumb people, smart. I love everybody. But we now know adrenochrome's real. And what is your guys?
Well, before we go into that, I think it's important to specify here that the churches that we mentioned earlier, by and large, they're good people. Mm-hmm. The average churchgoer in these different denominations, they're decent, normal people that work and raise their families and do whatever they do. It's not like a doctrine issue within the church that's causing them to steal children or do any of these horrible things that we're discussing tonight. It's people within those churches that take advantage of the power and wealth that comes with having a large church structure like that to carry out evil things for their own benefit. So I just wanted to make sure that that was clear.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean,
Absolutely.
There's for sure great churches. I was a musician for them for a while, and majority of people out there, to all our viewers, we love churches. We we love. I love church going people. It's called the Book of Life for a reason, not the Book of Death. Josh, we got you on here now. It looks like that you're coming good.
Yes, I'm here.
All right, welcome to the show. And so we're just getting into basically, we wanted to ask you that all these people that you're running against, I wanted to ask you, so I was just saying, people actually support NAMBLA. Like, that's like, that people are out there giving their money and their donations, like, yes, here, can you keep being a pedophile? Oh, you can, yeah, all right. And like high-fiving, rolling away on their skateboard. Do you still see people supporting them?
I really don't know anybody in particular, but I do know that there is I've seen and read about a lot of George Soros related things with that. Not so much that I've seen it in the United States, but in England and throughout Europe I have.
Right. And you're running for, just let me pull it up here. I saved the picture. You know, just tell us what you're running for so I don't have to take 4 seconds.
No. I'm running for United States Congress, District 7 here in Arizona. I actually just left a meeting at the new Latinos for Trump headquarters. So I had to go there tonight. So that's why I'm on the road now. I'm definitely glad to join you. This topic is dear to my heart, and it really needs to be addressed. And we need more politicians to grow a pair and actually do something about it, about the issues that we're discussing tonight. Whether it's CPS, due process back in CPS, you know, is a big thing, because that's what can help cut the conveyor belt off of children.
And just how you said, people with balls, God said that the church age would become lukewarm, and he would you know, spit it out of his mouth because of how people would be like, yeah, you know, I believe in God, you know, oh, you know, and I'll do drugs, or, you know, I'll get messed up or whatever. Like, you know, I'm not judging people. Trust me, I'm probably worse than everybody. I'm single, and, you know, we're all struggling with our own sin, and there's these women. But, you know, we all have our thing. And I appreciate someone that's coming out there and saying, like, hey, I stand for God. My whole thing, again, because I was never political. I was never a voter. I was always like George Carlin. But I always believed in God. George Carlin did not believe in God, but I believe in God, and I never thought right or left, right? I always tried to think north. Like, and hey, you're allowed to think left, right, and south. You can think whatever you want. You break the law, you got to pay the price. Wages of sin is death. But I don't understand. And Josh, maybe you see this more than I do, but I watch everything. Why doesn't Biden and like a lot of the Democrats, I was watching Tulsi, you know, she seemed like kind of normal, and I was like, oh, you know, she's cool. But like, they never say anything about God. It's always like, it's politics. Like, that's their God. They're like this, like, oh, well, you know, forever and ever. And that's their God, is politics. And I'm like, why don't you say, we pray to Jesus? Like, just what, like, maybe that'll help you a little bit.
Well, you would think that would be the case, but unfortunately, the Democrat party's moved so far crazy left that when you do hear, for example, Nancy Pelosi discuss being a great Catholic, I was raised Catholic and I'm Catholic. So when I hear her say that, I cringe every time, because you're also talking about a lady that believes in a fanticide, late-term abortion, and then she tries to tell me that she's a great Catholic. So, you know, the left has just gone too far left, and not even too far left, just they really dehumanized babies, you know, being born. They're a clump of cells. It means nothing. It's not a big deal, you know. And that's another one that, you know, between the kids being trafficked, abused, sexually abused, murdered, et cetera, and then they're throwing fanticide on top of it. I honestly don't know how anybody can vote for these people.
They're doubling their sins. It's like, they're not just like, you could be a thief, a liar, a fornicator, all these things. And they're like, no, let's have pride parade and be pride is a sin. So pride's your sin. And then on top of that, let's all be sinful on top of that. It's like doubling sins. And they're the party of projection, you know? So everything that they're pointing their fingers at everybody else is what they're actually doing. I could cite this in many examples. I mean, it'd take me all night to point them all out. But when you look at what the party is and what they do and what they say about the president or about other Republicans, but objectively look at it, and you'll see that they're the ones actually doing it. No, and look, and I'm not trying to say that, like, oh, you know, God thinks this way or this way, because I get it, you know, like, Jesus was liberal. Like, he was like, hey, man, let everyone get, like, that was the first liberal, kind of. Like, if you actually look at the word liberal, it's just like, hey, let him do what he wants to do. You do what you want to do. All right, well, if I want to be like God, don't hate me because I'm, you know, being like God then. You know what I mean?
I think it's really interesting, Josh, what Josh was saying is that what they're pointing the finger at is what they're doing. You take a primary figure in my case, and he's not just in my case, it's Dr. Daniel Scott Schechter. So Dr. Daniel Scott Schechter, who's a mastermind, whatever, he's a kidnapping pediatrician, but he's way worse than that because he conducts experiments on kids, and that's what he did with mine, and he does it with a lot of kids. But he's on Twitter, and there was this Twitter months back where President Trump was talking about the wall, and so Dr. Schechter, who's this award-winning psychiatrist, had to start using the four-letter F word because he couldn't say anything that was going to actually combat the truth of why we need to control illegal immigration. And then he makes a tweet where he says, President Trump is sympathetic and supports and really wants to just take kids from their good parents. And then he cited a story. He said, President Obama never took any child from any parent. And I'm thinking to myself, well, about what Josh just said. Okay, not only did it happen a lot with Obama, is it still happening under existing policies that were put into place under Obama, that the whole CPS thing, but Dr. Daniel Scott Schechter does it, and he does a lot of it, and he's deep in it. So it's just an example of, whatever, it's calling a spade, but they're the ones who are doing it, and they're the ones who are projecting it out. I mean, the people who gave testimony in my case in the beginning, I mean, you look at my ex-family-in-law. I mean, the man, Robert Grant Bradford, was in fact the man who in 2002 did attempt with his friends who were pedophiles in prison. At that time, he was not in prison. He was just a chaplain, to attempt to assassinate Sheriff Joe Arpaio and Arizona Governor Hall. And he was found in a video with my nephew, molesting my nephew on a video. And yet he wrote a letter to Interpol here when we came here saying, Neal Sutz is a pedophile. You have to go get my grandkids and bring them back to me and our wonderful family. And it just goes, it's the narrative these insane socialist leftist people say. It's just, they repeat the same thing over and over, thinking eventually everybody's just going to believe it. When you know the truth, you absolutely cannot believe that anything that's coming out of these people's mouths is true, except to further their cause and put money in their pockets.
That's exactly how they operate. I mean, you can look at this on the most basic of level. If you've been in a relationship with someone, if they start accusing you of cheating when you know you haven't been cheating, it usually means that they themselves are cheating. And this type of psychology about it, it's funny that you brought up psychology. It's just, the same thing applies to how these politicians, when they start accusing other people of doing something like this, and you know that person's not on the bad side of things. They're actually fighting for good things. I would venture to say that a lot of times that they themselves are probably guilty of it.
It's interesting how it continues. And I mean, you look at, I talk about Dr. Daniel Scott Schechter a lot because he's here in Switzerland, still an American, being protected by the Swiss government, even though he's broken a dozen international laws. So, but if you look at that, and it's like, why are people doing what they're doing? And the reason I'm referring to this is that journalist Mike Volpe just wrote a brilliant article. It's being released in the next couple of days. He's been working on it for a couple of months about myself, my sons, our case. Why is Judge Amy Berman Jackson involved? Why are all these leaders of churches and political organizations all involved in my case? And apparently he sent Dr. Schechter and the Geneva University Hospital, where they held my kids for 4 months at the beginning, in a room under a psychiatric study after they tore them out of my arms. He sent him a list of questions apparently, and Dr. Schechter didn't even respond. He wrote to Judge Amy Berman Jackson's office. She didn't respond. He wrote to the CPS in Geneva. They didn't respond. The ones that responded, apparently, from what Mike Volpe has told me, are except for State Department, which gave a very vanilla statement, apparently, and we'll find out what that is when the article comes out. The ones that responded that actually had something intelligent to say were the ones that were being honest, were the ones that were on the good side of things, the honest side of the entire case, looking at it pragmatically by facts, going back to the beginning of the case, apparently saying, well, why did they take Neal Sutz's kids in the beginning away? Why have they held them for 3 years and 19 days? And why are two governments working together to make sure he never gets his kids back? And I think it's important with any subject matter. It's like, if one knows the truth, we don't really have to resort. I mean, okay, I was born in New York, and yeah, I got a bad mouth sometimes, and I've said the F word a whole bunch of times in my life. But to use it when we're backed into a corner because we have nothing else to say, that's not really the time to use it. It's intelligent people like Josh, like Shelby, like Steve, like people that look at situations honestly, that could have an intelligent dialogue about it instead of just mixing words and repeating the same phrase, thinking people will eventually believe the lies.
Yeah, we're getting a guy on tomorrow night. Apparently, he's like running for president, and he's like, I don't know how much, what's it called when you have like backing he has, whatever. But he's like, masks are mandatory, and we're just getting him on because I'm like, okay, let's see if we can like talk to people. But some people, I'm not trying to say that they've been brain damaged by fluoride and the mind control waves and 5G radiation and all that. And they're like these just zombies that, you know, are here end times that are probably going to kill the two witnesses. But anyway, these it's good to be able to have a conversation with somebody and be like, okay, let's see if we are actually thinking about free will, about I'm not going to, do you know what a right is? It's the ability to execute something that doesn't affect anybody, right? No one around. It's like you do. It's something that you do that doesn't impact anyone else in any possible way. It's your freedom of like behavior and your ability to actually execute something. And everything they want to do is this way of saying no. And when you go to God is ultimate free will, where it's just like, hey, you can be good, you can be bad. He lets the devil roam. He lets Satan roam all around the world, tricking people. You know, God lets that happen. But when you go to God, you're like, yeah, I know you're going to do something bad, but look at the good people and let them do good too. But that's not how Satan works in this system that we're in. And I mean, yeah, the Bible says that it's going to be under, Satan's going to rule at some point. It's just going to happen. And I personally, I don't know what you guys think about this flying city of Jerusalem, New Jerusalem coming back in gold and everything, and whether it's aliens or what, but hopefully it'll be happening soon.
You talked about the churches and free will and the lukewarmness of the churches, how it says biblically.
Right.
Look at all the churches across this nation, across the world for that matter, that are shutting down in compliance to these mandates.
Mm-hmm.
We're supposed to live boldly. We're supposed to live fearlessly in our faith. And if our spiritual leaders are not setting that example, where do we go from there?
You can tell what churches are believing the belief of the religion of politics or science. Politics, scientism, and money. They're your top three religions, man. No longer is it, oh, do you believe in Jesus? No, it's, what are your beliefs? Well, Hillary Clinton's really smart. You know, she has a great smile and, you know, she's not bisexual at all. She, you know, loves, like, that's their religion. And you know what? It could go for the right too. Like, you know, there's atheist right people that are like, you know, that think Donald Trump is the God's, you know, we're all human, man. You know what I mean? Like, it goes both ways.
We're all human. And that's the thing. I mean, everybody that knows me knows, okay, so when we got here and they first kidnapped my kids, I was like, maybe if I cut my hair really short again and wear a suit all the time, then they'll really realize that I'm actually the good person that Phoenix Children's Hospital says by testimonial or something. So you try to play along. So I finally, I let my hair grow out. I started being myself again because I realized, whatever, the psychiatrist will say I'm fine. Phoenix says I'm fine. Arizona says I'm fine. The Department of Public Safety says I'm fine. There's no due process here, and they're a bunch of socialist Nazis. So I go to Geneva, and I'm there. Today's Thursday. So I'm there. I saw Corey, my oldest son, for a very little bit of time on Wednesday. So I have tattoos, and so most of my tattoos are on my arms. I have Skylar on one arm, Corey on the other arm. I've got a peace sign, and I've been wanting to get this one tattoo for 17 years, and I never got it because of the whole concept of we're trained like dogs in society to hide our faith. And now with the coronavirus nonsense, the churches are empty because people can't apparently go to church, but they can burn down America, whatever that means. That's crazy. But I got my tattoo, and it's my first tattoo that really shows. And they flipped because it's a cross. They flipped out there because you don't have the right to talk about it, and you sure as hell don't have the right to show it.
And what you're saying about Nazis, I mean, guys, seriously, the easiest way to find out who a Nazi is, besides if he's vegan and he loves abortion, and besides all that, not that there's anything wrong with being vegan, but that, again, America. No, they're burning literal Bibles.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't burn the Satanic Bible. I would be like, hey, you should read that because it still proves God's real, Jesus is real. Like the occult satanic stuff, I've read it, I've listened to it all, and I'm like, wow, it even proves God's real. How stupid can you be, you fools? But Josh, a question for you. Would you go around burning Bibles, the Book of Enoch? Would you be like, hey guys, I love America. Would you light it on fire? And step on it. I love America so much. Would you do that?
Absolutely not. And anybody who does, to me, is insane. These people that we are letting destroy and loot our cities all need to be arrested and thrown away for a long time. And the problem is we have a prosecutor in Portland, for example, that's not doing anything to these people and just letting them out. But that's what you get when you vote Democrats into office, and that's what you get when you let Marxists take over your city council, become the mayor or the governor of your state. That's the kind of problems you're going to have. And can you imagine if we got Joe Biden and Kamala Harris at the top pushing this Marxism and crazy socialism down everybody's throats? This is an election that means it's probably one of the most important elections in history of the United States, I feel.
What do you feel? I don't know. I'm not a big poll reader, and plus I don't trust a lot of them because last year everyone was like, Trump was so far behind. It was, and then I was like, I don't know, because I was into the whole Kim Clement. I don't know if you guys know who he is or have heard.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I heard it on a really great guy's podcast channel, Trey Smith. But Kim Clement, is a monster, and he called Trump would win in 2015 or 14 or something like that. He said he was going to be president, and that he would. Yeah. Obviously, he's not a perfect guy. I mean, he's just like a bro, like anybody else, but that he would be needed really bad. And what do you guys think right now about where things are? Because honestly, I feel there's not as much spirit behind Trump right now. Like I think it's going to build up, but right now I feel it wasn't as powerful as it was in 2016.
I think that Trump is going to win by more electoral votes than he had last time. I think that there's going to be a lot of things that are going to happen between now and election time if Bill Barr and Durham get their butts in gear and do their jobs. That will expose what the left is and what they've done, on top of the fact that the economy is bouncing back rather quickly. But then again, we're fighting these Democrat-run states and these governors that are purposely shutting down the states to put a hurt on the economy. I think the polls are nonsense. I don't think they're anything that's the people that I've run into a lot of Democrats and a lot of people that are walking away from the party due to the crazy socialist outlook that they have. And I mean, literally every day I see this. So I'm not buying the polls one bit. I got a couple steak dinners on the fact that Trump's going to win. So I plan on taking advantage of those with some of my liberal friends, and I'm going to make them pay too. I'm going to make them take me to the $150 steak place. I'm pretty confident in the fact that Trump's gonna outdo what he did last time.
Yeah, I think that in my view right now that the silent majority is so much higher than it was before. That's why you're not really hearing. Yeah. I'm not anyway. I could be wrong. I don't watch really any TV, but
I agree. The silent majority to me it's bigger than what it was in 2016. And I agree with you 100%. That's exactly what is happening. And there's a lot of people waking up to, like I said, the Marxism, the socialism that's being thrown down our throats. Even with BLM is helping us with that too, because a lot of my black friends are looking at BLM and they're like, "You're not looking out for us. This isn't about Black Lives. This is about all the money from Black Lives Matter went to all white Democrat candidates. You haven't helped one. I put a tweet out today, and I've asked Stephen Shelby, my friend Juan, and I asked him 2 questions. What has BLM done for the Black community? Name one thing. And number 2, what has the Democrat Party done for the Black community in the last 30 years? Name one thing. He can't name one. And when you point out the obvious or the elephant in the room, but the media is never going to talk about that.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't know how much you guys are on Instagram or on Twitter or whatever. If anyone noticed this, if you don't post that whole, remember that blackout thing? Like, let's say you don't agree with the politics. Everyone knows Black Lives Matter. No one said, who said Black Lives don't matter? Nobody. We had Bishop Larry Gators on our show. No one ever said Black lives don't matter, white lives don't matter, Asians, Eskimos. No one said any of that. They got that name from the Thuggy cult. The Thug, that's where the term thug comes from. Burham, Liveth, and Morty were the names of the highest Thuggy cult members, which their names literally translate to Black Lives Matter. It's like Black Life Matter. No one ever said that. It's all just this huge programming operation. And if you don't post Blackout Tuesday, I don't know if anybody remembers that. It was a couple months ago. They're like, he's racist because his silence. And now there's all these people saying their silence because you don't say anything is racist. It's like silent bullying kind of because you just don't say anything. Like when I was at a school and I was trying to help somebody do sit-ups, I was a strength coach. I was like, good job. And a trans kid walked behind me. I didn't even see him. And the one of the teachers was like, Jim, just to let you know, we're very up on the silent bullying. And I'm looking at him like, what did I do? You just let him walk by without saying how much you love trans people? And I was like, I didn't even see the guy walk by me. And I'm like, well, next time he does, just tell him how much you love him and you love what he's doing. And I was like, okay, well, I mean, I love the guy anyway. I mean, I'm not, he's a nice kid. I was like, can I use that at the gym when I'm working out? And
well, you guys, in my opinion, okay, I'm not running for office. I'm not a politician. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not really a journalist. I'm just a dad. I'm Corey and Skyler's dad. And I can say in this particular case, like what you guys are talking about right now, it's absolutely mind-blowing. There's a guy who one of the guys that sort of takes care of my kids, whatever, these people that take care of, that neglect my kids at the group home in Geneva. Just the fact that he happens to be homosexual, which I don't really care. I don't freaking care what he does in his personal life. You're not allowed to actually, even if they commit a crime, you're not even allowed to say anything against somebody who commits a crime who is of that particular minority, which isn't really a minority, it's a majority. And what I'm saying is everybody, whether we're gay, straight, men, women, black, white, yellow, brown, we're all freaking human beings. And either we all have the same level of rights or we should all have none, but we should all have the same level. You shouldn't be obligated to acknowledge or kiss somebody's rear end because they're part of a newly acknowledged minority. I mean, it's like Josh was saying about, what was the unemployment rate? I mean, I don't know the number off the top of my head. During the Obama administration, what was the unemployment rate for the black community? It's pretty freaking high compared to what it is now under Trump. The unemployment rate is pretty freaking low. Let's look at the reality of the situation. We're all human beings, and to utilize one's sexuality or their whatever it is, something that they think because they're a victim in society. We're all human beings. We've all been victims of things in our lives, whatever we are, whether we're white, black, brown, men, women, gay, straight, it doesn't matter. We've all been victims.
Right. Yeah. I do, and just to go off with what Neal was saying, why can't I go at the gym? Why can't I go up to 2 hot chicks that are squatting, pretty good weight? They have because big butts are in right now. Excuse me, you have to love me. Yeah. Well, are you not loving? I'm gonna get the government to come in and force you to love me. Like, you better come. I want to go. Just make out and like that's wild. Like,
Right.
And Josh, so it
Yeah.
looks like, you're a guy that works out. Do you ever know, I'm not trying to say that the left, I'm saying, they're all like kind of weak and fallen. And yes, Casey says I have weak wrists. I can't bench as much as he could when he was 16. I'm 38 right now. But they're kind of just like, oh, don't you want to drink soy? It's so much better for you than oat. You know what I mean? Like, it's like weak and you can't even like. You don't
I
want
can
to.
see that. I think a lot of the left probably does have a little too much soy in their diet, or maybe needs to take some anti-estrogen type supplements. But I do have quite a few friends at the gym that are lifters, but most of them are conservatives, oddly enough, and they are the biggest, strongest guys in the gym. I do know one. I'll give him credit. I know one guy that is a far left Bernie supporter. And I give him credit because I told him the only reason I even talk to you is because you can deadlift 700 pounds. So
Right.
I'm extra nice to him.
Right. No, and nothing.
But
yeah,
I
Judge-
can out squat him and I can out bench him. So I get 2 out of 3.
Ooh, okay. Hey, everybody knows how much you bench. That means the most, okay?
That's right. How much you bench, bro? Right? One of those.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, no, Casey in height when he was like 15, he could bench like 315 or something like that. I struggle with 235. But guys, so before we wrap up, can I just get Neal, if you want to go first, just something to go out on, something that we can find you on, your message to people, and then we can just kind of go Neal, Josh, and then we'll do Steve and Shelby.
Real briefly, it's been 3 years and 19 days. My kids were illegally seized. They're American citizens. Absolutely under no circumstances. If anybody wants to call anybody to demand that my kids are returned, everybody needs to understand my kids. And, Josh and Steve and Shelby were very clear in their demand. The facts stand as they are. There was never any CPS case in America, no investigation that I was running from when we saved our kids, my ex-wife and I, to come to Switzerland. This is an American jurisdiction case. Let's let the Americans handle it now. And as far as what people want to do, people need to get off their keyboards and they need to get out. People get out of their house. We can do a lot on our keyboards. I mean, I'm a writer, I write all day long, but people get out of their houses and go to the places that make the changes happen and demand it. I don't know. I mean, the way I look at it, if we want change, go make it happen, because the power truly is in the hands of the people. It is in the hands of the people. It is we the people. And I'm not going to get into how many of my websites have been hacked and how the petition I put on the White House website was hacked and this was hacked and that was hacked. People want to make change happen. They don't want to solve my case, because if my case gets solved, meaning my boys get returned to me immediately and unconditionally, they're going to have to solve like 95% of the CPS cases in America.
It's going to open up a whole big can of worms for corruption. That's what I'm alluding to.
It needs to be the case to just be over and done, because what's happened is the left is the ones that did it. The socialists are the ones that did it, the Americans and the Swiss, who are all socialists. Then I started going to Republicans and trying to get help from them. And then I started meeting the world of rhinos and been really.
All right. Well, Josh, it looks like you still got good service. That stinks we're losing Neal. But, okay, so, Josh, give us some, why should people vote for you besides you can bench press, more than all your Democrat rivals. They're weaker, you know what I mean? They just, the zest of life just isn't there, I guess.
Well, the one thing about me is, one of my top platforms is child trafficking, sex trafficking, all that crazy stuff that, you've been talking about all night. And that's one thing. When I saw what happened to Neal, and not only him, but countless number of parents I've spoken with the last year of a similar situation, maybe, not as extreme as Neal's, but similar situations where these kids are being taken unlawfully. And, it's funny because, when they take these kids, they never arrest the parents. Have you noticed that? If they're doing something so criminal and so bad to these kids that you have to take them, why are they not arrested and thrown in jail? And it's just basic common sense questions you can ask that kind of shows that there's an underlying thing there, that it's a money-making operation, and it needs to stop. You know, and one of the biggest things for me, like I said, is put due process back into CPS courts and cut that conveyor belt off, which we had legislation in Arizona to do it, and it got tabled and never even got heard. You know, and then of course COVID hit. So once things open back up, but there's one thing I'm not going to stop on, is that we're gonna get that done somehow, some way, and I'm not going to stop till it happens. And you know, it also goes hand in hand with controlling our border. If we don't control our border, the traffic is going to continue. And Arizona is a hub of all of this, so we really need to a combination of control the border, and then obviously, you know, put the brakes on CPS.
Gotcha. Yeah, right. Thanks you. And Steve and Shelby, any last on?
So just to jump on the tail end of what Josh was saying, we do need to get some public oversight and control over state-sanctioned kidnapping, meaning DCS. And so I'm gonna, just like I did with the church, there are a ton of CPS/DCS workers out there that their heart is in it. They want to help children. They're there to make sure that they're protected and not exposed to dangerous situations or households or abusive, you know, situations that, you know, they want to protect kids.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a financial incentive put into place for children to be taken through legal means, right? And so we need to put systems in place to cut that gravy train, so that corrupt individuals within the CPS system can't pretend like they're there to help children, and really all they're doing is padding their pockets and making their annual income larger by taking kids. You know, we got to cut that off. We need to put juries back into DCS courts. We need to allow a jury of our peers, people that live in the community, that know these people that are having their children possibly taken. They need to intervene and be able to sit there, hear the case, and say, you know what, I don't think, yes, there's a problem, or no, there's a problem, but maybe some intervention is required rather than taking the children. You know, there's so many other alternatives. We always have to jump to, let's take the children and cash in on them and start moving them from foster home to foster home until someone adopts them. Everyone ends up making money off of them. And the only thing I'd like to add is #SaveOurChildren. Let's keep that going.
Yeah. All right. Well, is there any websites that you guys want to plug that, or that we can get the word out more? Obviously,
absolutely.
Neal,
rightsocial.net. It's, the name's changing over to Ain't Social, but it's rightsocial.net. Real free speech, real dialogue, not just a bunch of likes and shares, but hardcore dialogue, no censorship. The video of Josh and Steve and Shelby making the over 19-minute political internet.
What he's trying to say is that's where you can find the political demand and a lot of facts regarding his case. Also, please visit barnettforaz.com, Josh Barnett's political page. That's a way to reach us and contact us. If you have concerns, questions, anything like that, you can get a hold of any of the three of us through that site. And I would like to end myself by saying, remember, our freedoms are ours. We don't have to ask our government's permission. They need to ask ours. And until people realize that and start claiming what already belongs to us, we're in trouble. And so I would just say, just own it. It's your freedom. Take it. Don't ask permission.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I know most of your viewers probably aren't going to be Arizona viewers, especially Maricopa County, but we need to get people like Josh into office, right?
Yes.
We need to get strong,
Absolutely,
Americans who believe in the constitutionality that is supposed to be the foundation of this country, and also understand that it's not just the Democrat leadership, but there are rhinos that are involved in every level of this corruption that we're dealing with as well. And so we need to get good, principled, constitutionally minded candidates into office so that we can start taking our country back. These corrupt
Absolutely.
that are taking advantage of us and our country for their own personal benefits and agendas, right? We need to get our own in there so that we can take it back.
All right, guys. Well, really appreciate having everybody on, and I think it was a good show that like we brought just like got stuff out there that I think a lot of people have not heard. Lot of stuff I didn't know. And Case, you got anything else for us?
No, I will make sure I post all those links on the sites and all that. So
You guys, thank you everybody for having me on with Josh and Steve and Shelby, and you guys are great. I think you like what you're doing. It goes without saying. You have a very unique approach at sharing in this medium, and very serious, but you make a conversation. Done a lot of interviews on the subject matter, and I know where my kids are tonight. I know my son Skylar's being molested tonight. I know the government's sanctioning it. I know the guy who's doing it to him, and I know I can't open my mouth about it. But when I get opportunities to speak and to be heard and to have support and validation, to share this message, to let people know American families and families all around the world are being destroyed by CPS to make people rich, aside from the trafficking and the pedophilia and anything else. It just simply goes down to the fact that people are trying to make money off hurting children and persecuting families. And I agree, and I'm not just saying it because Josh and Steve and Shelby were the only politicians to ever come out to demand my sons are returned. But this is what America needs. We need people like Josh Barnett in our Congress representing Arizona. I lived in Arizona for a long time. I know a whole bunch of politicians there. Democrats that are dirty, rhinos that are dirty, and we need people like Josh Barnett representing. We need him in Congress. It needs to happen because it's we the people. It's we the people. The government doesn't belong, our country doesn't belong to a bunch of politicians. It belongs to us. And thank you.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm so sorry, man. Like you're like, yeah, my children are probably getting molested. Now that's not normal. Like, you know what? Like you're just like, yeah, they're probably, you know, like what
just, I don't say it flippantly. It's just that there's over 437 people involved in my case that have either done it or buried it, and the list has gotten really long and really dirty. I'm in a socialist country, guys, and Josh and Steve and Shelby and others know it's Switzerland. You can't speak here. It's based on Mein Kampf, run like a Hitler country. It just looks really beautiful. You're not allowed to speak out against the government. No citizen has ever spoken out in the history of this country. I've spoken just to get my sons back. And they try to get me to break the law. They try to get me to go crazy, become a drug addict. None of it's ever happening. So I keep trying to sort of follow their little laws here because it's very Hitlerian and you can't screw up.
Yeah, just follow Jesus is all we can say. My thing, and no matter what, you know, we can all give advice on what to do, but what you got to do is you got to meditate and pray, maybe sometimes fast, and just, you know, get right with God and the Word and read it and reflect on it. So, guys, I really appreciate you guys coming in, and I'll be keeping our prayers, and hope that let's keep in touch, and maybe we'll do a part 2 next time. We'll schedule something and see how things develop, and hopefully we're crushing the serpent, the head of the serpent. You know, not like, I mean, legally, not like actually physically. You know, we don't believe in violence here. But all right, guys, thank you so much.
Thank you guys for doing this, and good luck with everything, Neal.
Thank you so much, guys. God bless all of you.
God bless.